What's up, fight fans? This is Kurt DeVille with Counterpunch Boxing News, and I have some new news concerning Errol, the Truth, Spence. Errol Spence blasts Shawn Porter's dad, Kenny Porter, with his latest tweet. He stated, "If I was Shawn, I wouldn't pay my daddy, LOL." The reason he's saying that is because you know the new narrative going around that Kenny Porter stopped the fight too early, and we'll talk about that here in a second. In fact, even farther, people are saying that he was a double agent. He was paid by Team Terrence Crawford to stop the fight and to stop it early, and he sabotaged his son's career and ultimately forced him into retirement. So, first off, Errol Spence is alluding that Shawn Porter's dad stopped it too early. Now, did he stop it too early? I think he did. I think he did. If you saw my live, you seen my disgust and disappointment with him stopping the fight. However, you got to look at both sides. I'm a Libra, so, it's all about balance here. So, when you're looking at Kenny Porter, and I explained this in my last live, Kenny Porter knew what his son's limitations were. He knew that his son was in a situation that he's never been in. And he also knew that there was no chance of him coming back at that point. The momentum was not in his favor. Terrence Crawford was starting to open the attack. He knew his son was hurt. If you know anything about Kenny Porter and Shawn Porter, you know the last thing on earth that Kenny would do is sabotage his son. He did that because he knows his son. He probably knows his son more than his son knows his own wife. Okay, because they spent longer time together. They stay across the street from each other. He knows when his son is hurt, and he knows his son is proud. If you see the slamming of the glove with Shawn Porter, that was disgust, but he also knew there was something else that he was indicating, that, hey, he was hurt. Okay, Shawn Porter might have got a flash knockdown the first time. Might have. I think that punch landed, and I have another clown to counterpunch later on, but I'll get to that. But that second knockdown was definitely one of those ones that put him down, okay? And Shawn Porter went down swinging. I have to make people understand that. He went down swinging like a warrior, and he was catching Terrence Crawford just like Terrence Crawford was catching him. But the difference was the punching power, was the leverage, was the effect of the punches. Terrence Crawford's punches, that right chopping hook was catching Shawn Porter, and that was the punch that made drool come out of his mouth and through his mouthpiece because he got hit that hard, okay? So, back to Errol, though. Errol said I wouldn't pay my dad because he did a bad job with throwing in that towel. But this is what I'll say to Errol Spence. Errol Spence has never been in that situation. Okay? As of Saturday night, Shawn Porter never been in that situation. And because he hasn't, and they never seen that type, and they never been hurt to that limit, they'll never know. So it's wrong for Errol Spence to say, hey, he's hurt or whatnot. Now with Derek James throwing in for Errol Spence, I'd probably doubt it. He'd probably let him get knocked out, which, hey, that's his choice. Okay, but then again, Derek James ain't the father of Errol Spence. Okay, Kenny Porter is the father of Shawn. And it's a lot more personal when your son's in there taking punishment that you know that he's not going to come back from and only take more of if the fight continues. Okay, so you still had the rest of that round, the 11th round and the 12th round. Now, the sad thing is we'll never know what Shawn Porter would have done because we'll never know. But the odds are Terrence Crawford would have commenced knocking down Shawn Porter, and Shawn Porter would have kept getting up because he is what? Proud. Okay? That's one thing you know about Shawn Porter. He's a proud fighter, and he's not a quitter. Okay? Shawn Porter didn't quit. That ain't the narrative because Kenny stopped that fight because he knew his son wouldn't quit. That's what people need to understand about that stoppage. Kenny Porter was like, let me stop it because I know my son won't. And I don't want my son to be hurt in this particular fight, in a fight that he's never been hurt like this before. Yes, he's been down before. He's been down against Errol Spence, flash knockdown. He's been down against Adrian Broner, and Adrian Broner caught him in a left hook in the 12th round, which he still won. But at the end of the day, you know, he's never been to that point where he's just taking knockdowns back to back like he did Saturday night. Okay, so Errol's saying, hey, I know it was in a jokeful manner or whatnot, but still, you know, we have to counterpunch and look into this further. You know, with him saying, hey, I wouldn't do that, he did a bad job. But I think Kenny Porter, I even had a friend of mine that says, hey, man, in fact, let's see, what did he say? He said Kenny Porter is Sean's mom. He said that was some top level gay shit, stopping the fight, then giving that reason, shaking my head. Now, that is the words of John 5, good friend of mine. But if you think about it, that was lame. So I got to agree with John 5, because he said, well, he wasn't prepared for it. And I'm like, okay, that's weird. You know, like, don't do that. But we've already talked about that. But back to Errol Spence. I wouldn't, if I was Sean, I wouldn't pay my dad. You know, he's only blasting his dad by recognizing his dad didn't do the best job or make the best decision. But anyway, you guys tell me what you think of Errol Spence and his comments towards Kenny Porter. Of course, please subscribe. And you guys been Counterpunch. Peace.